Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new then welcome. My name's Kristina, and on my channel we talk all things beauty from my own experiences. So before you go, make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave any comments that you have for me down below. I have been overjoyed and overwhelmed by the amount of people that have been complimenting my skincare as well as like my makeup in general. It has been such a joy and really kind of validating with the things that I have been doing differently, or just the habits that I've created around skincare and makeup, which is kind of prompt the topic of today's video, which is habits that have helped my makeup. I also want to do a second part, so if you end up liking this video, let me know in the comments down below. The second part would be skincare habits that changed my makeup and skin, but today we are focusing on all of the different little habits and hacks, if you will, that have kind of helped me become more confident and happier with my makeup in general. So if you're interested in seeing the little tidbits that I have for you guys, then let's get started. I want to preface and say that a lot of these things might be kind of common sense for you, or things that you already practice in your day-to-day, but these are things that I have been very mindful to start implementing, and I feel like they have made the biggest differences in my makeup throughout the last couple of months, or within the last year, or even more, that I just haven't really touched on too much. And as we go through, I'm also going to be practicing all of these things on my face so you can see like a demo of everything in action. Before we begin, I'm gonna go ahead and just do my brows. I always like to start with that. I'm using the Colfi brow gel. I recently talked about this one in a quick review makeup video. I don't know if it's already come out or if I'm gonna be posting it after this video. Either way, expect to see a little review on this product. First things first is makeup prep. I feel like this step is definitely such an essential when it comes to the way your makeup is going to lay throughout the day, and just in general your overall skincare health. I try to make sure that I not only prep my skin with really good skincare and a primer, but also I like to use moisturizing products as my primer. Now there are so many different ways that we can prep the skin for makeup, one of them being just a really good skincare routine, and another just being like a really good primer, but I kind of like to do a hybrid of both and use skincare as my primers. I do have oily, acne prone skin, but I find that moisturizing the skin either way kind of helps to control my oil over time as I wear makeup, and it also helps my makeup to last better because it's on an even, clean canvas. To prep my skin for makeup, I have been using these two products. This one I've already talked about on my channel. This is the Dalba First Spray Serum, and we also have, which I've added recently, is the Dalba White Truffle Double Serum and Cream. Now this video is sponsored by Dalba, but like I said, I have talked about this and I've been using this for a couple of months, and I feel like people have talked about this for so long. Now I do have oily, acne prone skin like I mentioned, but I found that this spray is one of the sprays that is really hydrating for my skin, but it doesn't break me out because it's been tested for sensitive skin. If you don't know already about White Truffle is an antioxidant, and it's supposed to be stronger than an antioxidant that we see in a lot of skincare called propolis. While we know propolis, it's a very popular antioxidant, White Truffle is right behind that in popularity, and it's supposed to be a more effective antioxidant. As you can see, this is a biphasal product, so we do have the plant-derived oils on here, and we also have the mixture of the White Truffle serum. White Truffle serum does help with elasticity, and over time helps with fine lines and wrinkles. This product also nourishes the skin, but like I said, I do have oily skin and I don't find that this feels really greasy, and you can actually use this in multiple ways. I've used it before, during, and after my makeup. I really enjoy using this before my makeup, like as a last step of my skincare before my sunscreen, and also whenever I'm doing my makeup after my powders or just after I finish my makeup, I like to spray a little bit of this on there to kind of melt and absorb in all of my powders, which I will be doing later. And the other product, which I am so excited to talk about with you guys, is going to be the moisturizer. And like I said, I like to use moisturizers and creams and stuff to prep my skin for makeup because I find that it hydrates and nourishes the skin. If you tend to have any dry patches on the skin, or if you have fine lines and wrinkles, this kind of smooths it in, it kind of absorbs into the skin. And this is so interesting and perfect for makeup makeup prep because we do have this double serum cream thing going on. So as you can see, this has a gel serum type of product right here on this side, and then we have the cream. This side right here is going to be the aqua serum. It's going to be the lightweight hydrator for the skin, and this side right here is the cream, which is going to be even more nourishing with a little bit of extra richness to it. So this is going to be more like your standard creamy moisturizer that a lot of people recommend that you use for makeup prep. But again, as someone that does have oily skin, having this aqua serum option is really great. And my favorite part about this is you can customize it based on how you're going to be using it. So because I do have oily skin, I like to use 2 parts of the aqua serum, and then I'll use 1 part of the cream right here. So it still gives me that rich hydrating cream that I want from like a moisturizer for makeup prep, but it absorbs really well because of that aqua serum. Like, I don't find that it's heavy on the skin. I still get that moisture and that prime that I want from my moisturizer. And it doesn't make my makeup slip and slide because it absorbs really nicely. And of course, you're getting the antioxidants from that white truffle while also nourishing the skin. So it's a double whammy here. Dalba actually has this saying, it's truffle glow, and their products seriously make you glow. Like, look at my skin right now. I am all here for a hydrated base that doesn't feel sticky or greasy or oily. This just absorbs so quickly, and I love the effect of this. And even though it looks really glowy, it doesn't feel greasy or oily or anything. Like, this is already absorbed. This is my dry skin. It doesn't feel wet at all, but it looks glowy and wet, doesn't it? Like, I love this. I feel really confident recommending this to everyone because you can customize it. So if you have more dry skin, you can use a 2-to-1 ratio using more cream than the aqua serum. Or if you have just normal skin, you can use a 1-to-1. And also, if your skin just needs more or less of one or the other, then you can customize it to that. At night, I like to use more of the cream and a little less of the serum. And then during the day, I like to use more of the serum and less of the cream. So you have so many options here. You basically get multiple moisturizers out of this. It does have a very light scent to it, but it doesn't bother me. And again, this has not broken me out, which is like my #1 thing when it comes to skincare. And I didn't think it would because, like I said, I have been using the spray serum and I have no issues with this. And before I start, I'm just gonna do a quick spray of this on top, and then I'm gonna let that fully absorb. And this does have that same scent that the cream has, but the cream is a little bit lighter in the scent. Just gonna pat that in and then let that dry. While I let that dry, I'm gonna talk about my next habit or tip, and that is to let all of the layers of your skincare and your makeup, foundation, concealer, color corrector, anything creamy, liquidy, let it fully dry, or at least like 90% of the way dry before going in with the next step of your routine. Now this one, I have heard people say for a very long time. And as someone that kind of is always in a rush, I never really adhered to this advice. I was just like, okay, that's fine. And I would just go in with my concealers, my foundations, my cream bronzer, my cream blush, everything one after the other. Like, as soon as I finished one, I would just move on to the next because, I mean, it's a lot of steps, to be honest, and makeup takes a lot of time. But I found whenever I would do that, it would sort of make my makeup move around a little bit more than I wanted it to. And at the time, I would think it was the makeup, right? Like, I was like, oh, this just doesn't have really good staying power, or it just tends to lift up whatever's underneath it. But what was really happening was the product wasn't getting the time it needed to fully set down and dry before I went in with another liquid or cream layer. If I go in with a blush right on top of my cheek where I have like a layer of concealer and it's still wet, then whenever I go on top and I'm buffing and I'm blending and I may be like swiping the blush, then in turn the concealer is also going to be doing the same thing underneath. It's like when you paint your nails and you do layers, you have to let the layers dry between each coat. Same thing with makeup. Another benefit to letting your products dry between layers is that it kind of gives you an idea of what you're working with. So sometimes when products dry down, like say your foundation dries down, sometimes you get a foundation that may oxidize a little bit on your skin. So then it'll kind of show you where you may need to lighten it up with concealer. You know what I mean? Or sometimes with concealers, once it dries down, it may look like it has more coverage. It may look like it has less coverage. And that'll allow you to see if like, okay, I need to go in with another layer of this before I move on. So it kind of just helps you take a little step back at what you're doing before slapping everything onto your skin, thus giving you maybe thinner or less layers than you anticipate, you know, and less makeup than you need to have on your skin, which in turn will kind of help your makeup last a little bit longer, especially if you have skin like I do. And probably the biggest pro of waiting to let your makeup like dry before moving on, and one of the reasons why I realized like this really works for me, is letting your liquids and creams and everything dry down before going in with your powder. It really helps to decrease the possibility of your powders getting really cakey on your face, because your powder is going to cling to any wet spots before it clings to any dry spots on your skin. So if you're going in and you're powdering your face while your makeup is still wet, you may see a spot that looks like it needs more powder, so you powder even more. And once your makeup actually dries down, if it does dry down underneath your powder, you're going to see a little bit more caking in that area. And this is something that I had experienced for a long time, and I was like, oh, this powder is just not doing it for me. But really, it wasn't the powder doing it to me, it was me doing it to myself. So while it takes more time, if you do go in with thinner layers of product and you let it dry between layers versus slapping everything on all at once, then I promise you, your makeup is going to sit so well, and not only will it look better, but it'll feel better because you may not even be wearing as many layers as you typically do, and it's going to last a lot better throughout the day. Another absolute game changer for me when I started doing it, and I have not stopped doing it since, is using a pencil liner in place of liquid eyeliner. For the majority of the time that I started wearing makeup, I strictly used liquid liner because I felt like it was the only type of eyeliner product that would not smudge, it would not smear, it would not flake off on my face because I do have smaller eyelid space. But when I found this, the Makeup by Mario eyeliner, and I started doing my wing liner a little bit differently, where I just do it on the ends versus all the way across, where it could then transfer up on top of my eyelid. This was the biggest game changer for me in so many ways. By doing this and kind of just dragging the excess towards the outer third of my eyes, it allows me to keep my small eyes as big as possible, because when I used to line all the way into like the inner corners of my eyes, it was actually closing off a lot of my eye space. No matter how skinny I made the liquid eyeliner, it would still close off a little bit of my eyelid space. And it also kind of made my eyelashes look a little shorter, because you would see like the black eyeliner and then my little eyelashes like poking up past it, you know? But even if I decide to bring the pencil liner farther into my eye and I smudge it out, it's still going to give me a soft definition, and it's not going to close off my eyes as much. And another like bonus on this tip is using a brown eyeliner has been really nice, because again, it's going to give me the softest definition but still give me a really nice eye shape. In using pencil liner, I can just do a little wing here, and then this one is great because it has the brush on the other end that is actually usable. I just use it to pull out the pencil liner that I draw in there, and it gives me this soft illusion of my eyes being elongated without it being obviously eyeliner. You know what I mean? It's just this really soft definition that isn't overpowering on my smaller eyes. Pencil eyeliner, I also find, is so much more forgiving as well. If you make a mistake, you don't necessarily have to just like start over. You can smudge it, you can add to it, you can blend it in as much as you want. This next tip, I don't know why I didn't start doing this sooner, because so many people had advised me to do it, but it is to use Asian mascaras over Western brand mascaras. And let me explain to you guys why this has been such an incredible game changer for me. For a very, very, very long time, I want to say over 10 plus years of wearing mascara, I was constantly layering different mascaras, and they always, always, always have to be waterproof if I want any semblance of a chance of my lashes holding the curl. My lashes grow straight down. They are rather long, and I do use an eyelash serum, and while they make it longer, they don't make them curlier. So I always have to go in with a mixture of different waterproof mascaras. So Maybelline Full and Soft waterproof version is and was my holy grail for the longest time. I would use this to act as kind of like a mascara base, a mascara primer, and then go on top with another mascara that was waterproof. For a long time, I was really loving this one, the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift, and before that, the Maybelline Sky High Waterproof. And while this combination did me so well for so long, it always ends up starting to smudge after a while, you know? Like after having a tube for a little bit, not even the full like 3 months that you typically have a mascara, my mascaras would start to smudge if it got too hot, especially living in Florida. The humidity really messes with your makeup, especially your mascara. When I go out with friends, I tend to laugh a lot. I did have a lot of transfer with my mascara to my lower lash line, and that was always kind of like a thing that I was like, dang, that sucks that it happens, but it could be worse, you know? But then I was introduced to Asian mascaras. This one in particular, the Kiss Me Hair and Make Long and Curl Advanced Film Mascara. It is a mouthful, but I've learned to say it because I recommend it to everybody. I love this one as well as this Romand Hand All Fix Mascara. Both of them are incredible. It takes these two steps into one, which may not seem like such a big deal to you guys, but I'm telling you, as someone that has had to layer their mascaras for such a long time, and not only that, but sometimes some waterproof mascaras don't even hold well, even with this little combination. Like having to go through trial and error like that has been such a struggle, but now I get to have the luxury of just using one mascara like everybody else. This one in particular is really nice because it has tiny little fibers in it, but it holds the curl all day long, and I have found that this is the case for every Asian mascara that I've used so far. There are other brands that I've tried, but every single one keeps my lashes up. Now, I do believe that almost every Asian mascara does claim to already be waterproof and smudge proof. Another really fun benefit to Asian mascaras, they do not smudge. They do not transfer. And again, this is just the ones that I have tried. There are so many more on the market that I have yet to try. It's like 100 times better than any Western brand that I have ever used. So take that with a grain of salt. I have recommended this to all of my friends that have lashes like mine, and every single one is obsessed with it, and they're like, I cannot use any other mascara. My friend, the first time she used it, she went to the gym and she texted me a picture of her lashes, and she was like, oh my goodness, this has never ever in my life happened before, but my lashes have stayed up. They haven't smudged at all. And I was like, you're welcome. The only con is that you may have to use a stronger eye makeup remover, like a mascara remover specifically. I'll link the one I use down below, but it works like a charm. But that's kind of the price you pay with something like this. It's not harsh on my lashes though, because I specifically use a mascara remover, and I also have that same mascara but with a tiny little wand, and I like to use this one on my bottom lashes. And the last pro, it's not necessary, but it's fun. A lot of Asian mascaras have tons of fun colors, and that is not something that I've been able to experience often, because typically whenever we have colored mascaras in America, their mascaras are not waterproof. They're usually just the regular formulation. So I have never been able to just fully enjoy a colored mascara. But with Asian mascaras, we have that same formulation, and we have fun colors. We have maroons, of course we have beautiful browns and blacks. I also have like a purple mascara, and I think I also have a blue one, and they all look so fun and just add a little bit extra color, a little bit of a something to the lashes. So I just love it. I'm so obsessed. So if you have not used an Asian mascara yet, and you have issues with your lashes holding, what are you doing, friend? Let's get on it and start using Asian mascaras. My next recommendation for you guys is not a new recommendation, but I just cannot get past this because this has been such a huge change in my makeup, but I can't not include it because it's truly been one of the biggest game changers for my makeup, and that is using a color corrector, whether it's a cream color corrector like this one, a liquid color corrector, whatever it may be. Color correctors in general, if you have any darkness or unevenness on your skin, if you have any hyperpigmentation like I do, it makes the biggest difference. The best thing that color correctors have done for me, I think, has been the fact that I don't have to use as much concealer, and because of that, my makeup doesn't feel as heavy. It also doesn't look as heavy either, because if you go in with a thinner color corrector, then it really does solve a lot of the problems that people seek concealers out for. I like to go in to my hyperpigmentation. If I have any active breakouts or anything like that, I will use my color corrector on it. I use a peach one. You don't have to use a peach one. If you tend to have redness in your skin, and you want to kind of eliminate that, you can use more of a green. We also have orange color correctors. I think there's also purple or red color correctors. There are so many different ones with so many different purposes now, and I love having the options and playing around and kind of seeing color theory in action. I also feel like this gets rid of a lot of gray cast that can happen when it comes to foundations and concealers. With hyperpigmentation, you're gonna see those spots. And if you go in with a concealer that is supposed to be true to your skin tone, really what you're doing is just going over and creating a shadow on top of that hyperpigmentation, making it kind of look like a dull grayish spot under your skin, just depending on what color it is. And this will help to decrease that from happening. It may not always completely eradicate that from happening. Of course, you have to play around with it, play with different color combinations and different concealers and stuff. But I'm telling you guys that if that is an issue for you and you haven't tried using a color corrector underneath your makeup, just try it out. I know that it can be intimidating figuring out what works best for you. And I also know that for a lazy girl like me, you just don't want to add an extra step to your makeup routine sometimes. But this is just like putting concealer on. If anything, it just allows you to remove one step of a concealer layer. I won't blend it in all the way because I allow it to completely blend out whenever I go in with my other complexion products like my foundation and my concealers. My next tip is the tools that you use. So I've been really liking using brushes over anything else when it comes to applying my makeup, and I find that using fluffier brushes just make my makeup look so much better. While I was doing my eyeshadow, you guys saw I was using mainly fluffy brushes. I have a bunch right here, and typically I'll go in with really fluffy blending type of brushes. And not only do I love fluffy brushes for my eyeshadows, but I love them for my complexion, and I feel like it just makes my makeup look so much more airbrushed. It just allows you to kind of let the product brush over very thinly all over the face, so it distributes it really lightly and it gives you a very, very thin layer versus using a more compact brush. You tend to kind of smash that like into your face, you know, you really buff it in, and you have to kind of buff it a little bit longer because you are kind of focusing that product into the area that you need it. And don't get me wrong, some products do call for a more dense brush. Like if you're going in with a nose contour or just a contour on your face in general, and you want to make sure that that product is super pigmented where you put it and it stays in that area, then a more dense brush is really nice. But when it comes to a regular bronzer, like a powder bronzer, or maybe a powder blush, or even a cream blush or bronzer, when it comes to those things, I love using a more fluffy brush like this one right here. BK Beauty Nikki LaRose N17 is perfect for using for my liquid blushes and also powders, you know, and it just kind of disperses that pigmentation very, very evenly, so it dries very even and a very thin layer. I love this BK 107 brush for my powders if I want to go in and set my face, but I want to make sure that no area is going to have too much powder. This is great for that, and it's also great for just buffing out any sort of bronzing product I have. This from BK Nikki LaRose, again, this N15 is amazing for dusting powders away after I bake. I have this rougher brush, which again is really great for any sort of powder, really nice for liquids, but this one, the number 5, I mainly use for my powder products. And this Sigma large angled contour, this F40, I love to use this to place my blush exactly where I need it to go. So there are so many different ways to use fluffy brushes, and I just find that whenever I use majority fluffy brushes, then my makeup just looks so much more perfected and airbrushed, and I'm just so much happier with the way that it sits on my skin. The next tip I want to give you guys is specifically for those that have more normal to oily skin like I do, but I really like to do something that I call soft baking, and I'm sure this is already a thing, it's already a term, but I just don't know what that term is, so I just call it soft baking. It's really just baking your face with your powders like you typically would, except you're going to use a lot less powder and you're going to kind of buff it into the skin, so that way we have a lot less to kind of wipe off of the skin. I used to bake all the time when baking was a big thing, baking all over the face, like really setting everything down, and at the time I had pretty dry skin, so my skin was looking matte, but that's how I wanted it at the time. But now I really love a good natural matte, a really nice dewy skin, but something that's going to stay in place all day, which is why I feel like this soft baking method has been a really good thing for my makeup routine and something that has allowed me to get the look that I want, but also have it last a lot longer than if I were to go in with more of a dewy look to begin with and leave it alone, because then it would slip and slide all over the place. But I always have to start off more matte than I want it to be, and then throughout the day, after a couple of hours, it kind of sets down how I want it to sit. This is the BK Nikki LaRose N14. It is an incredible brush for so many reasons. I use it for concealer, for powders, for baking. Get it onto my brush. This is just the Oma Trip and Smooth powder, and then I will just push it in to the skin just like this and do a pretty thick layer. As you can see, this one is translucent, but even if I was using a colored powder, you could see it's still going to be a very thin layer of powder here. We're just going to pretty much get all the powder that we want and just push it in there, and this allows the skin to, for lack of a better term, absorb in and bake with the powder, but we're not going to have a heavy cakey layer, and it's not going to leave us with this dry tight feeling on the skin, and it's not going to look like we have a ton of powder on. And alternatively, we can go in with tools like these. We have this triangle puff, and I also have this Real Techniques puff. Anything that has like this soft, not velvety, but like more fabricy type of layer, and you can go in with this the same way you did with your brush, just with a powder. Instead of just going in straight away like this, I'm just going to tap it in and work it into that sponge first before placing it on the skin. And you really want to just focus this where you want to bake, and you want to push it in rather than like smearing it across your face, because that can then move like anything underneath. I really feel like this allows my skin to get the most out of the powders without going overboard, and it gives me the perfect amount. Like, I'm definitely using more powder than someone with normal to dry skin would use, you know. Typically you could get away with just like a light dusting of one powder, but I like to layer my different powders to make sure that my makeup lasts all day. Also going to use my Huda Beauty Peach Pie powder just to sculpt out the face. And I really like baking with this one because it gives me that extra like sculpt that I typically look for. And this color is just perfect for my skin right now. And then instead of letting it sit there for a while, really once I place it, I start to then disperse it and get rid of any excess powder. So what I like to do first is just push it all in with whatever puff, whatever tool I used to apply it. I'll just push as much possible into the skin. And then whatever I have left over, I will go in with a completely clean brush and with the lightest touch, like not pushing down on the skin or anything like that, literally the lightest touch here, we're gonna go in and just buff all of that product off. We're trying to get as much of the excess off of the skin. That way, if you use any other powders like bronzer or blush or anything like that on top, it's gonna go on as smoothly as possible because you're going to just have an even layer of powder on top. Don't forget this, because if you do a light bake, then you may not realize you still have powder under here, but trust me, you do not want to realize that you have powder under there, especially if you're taking like flash photos. So the makeup is done. I finished putting on all of my powders and my lips. So now I'm gonna finish it off with my spray just to make sure that everything lays down very nicely. We don't have any caking, no spots look too powdery. You know what I mean? This always helps no matter what spray you use. But again, I've been loving this one. So I'm gonna use this. And that was everything. Those are all of my tips and tricks that I have been implementing within my makeup routine that I feel like have made a really big difference. Of course, there are so many more little tips and tidbits that I could give you, but I kind of wanted to stick to the ones that I noticed have made the biggest difference for me. Adding everything at one time obviously might be a little bit overwhelming, so I just wanted to give you guys the ones that I thought that would make the biggest difference for you. And of course, take what you want from this video. Let me know if you already do any of these tips or if you have any additional tips for us down below. I think it would be really fun to just share all of our little makeup hacks and all of those things. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you again to Dalba for partnering with me on this video. I really appreciate everybody's support on all of my videos recently. I have been loving doing more of these creative out of the box type of topics. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!